All right. First order of business is conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to disclose?
Do you want to open the meeting?
That would be a great idea. All right.
Thank
Look at you guys. Did you ever have one of those before?
Oh, it's over there sometimes. All right, I'll make a motion to open the meeting of the planning board.
Second.
Thank you. Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Loda? Aye. Member Cook?
Aye.
Member Reynolds?
Aye.
Chair Bleastra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to disclose?
I do not.
I do not. Do not.
I do not.
Okay, oh, okay, thank you. All right, so I want to talk about 5 State Street is the only thing on the agenda, and all three of you are,
Yep.
are that, okay. So we're here to start the process of hearing your application for the dumpsters. There's been a few discussions, reviews are going on with the trustees and reviews are going on with us. It looks like there's some code that we can cite, but the trustees should act first is preferred, is the advice we're getting. And because of that, the plan is we're going to start this off, open the public hearing, hear what board members have to say. We have a meeting in another week, which is one day after the trustee meeting. So whatever we bring up or whatever they bring up, hopefully it can all get addressed. And if we're in a position to act on it at our next meeting, then that can happen. So, so I just want to let you know up front what the plan is for this. So it doesn't really alter any schedule for you if it's our meeting is one day after theirs.
So we'll do everything today as planned, just not vote.
Exactly. Yeah.
Prefer to vote after the trustees. Okay.
Right.
Well, depending on what comments people have, I don't know what comments are going to come up. But yes, we're going to start and open the public hearing and start looking at the
Has
application.
that been confirmed with Jeff Turner and the trustees council that they're okay with that?
I'm not going to get into that. There's been plenty of discussions. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't talk about, privileged, attorney-client privileged kind of communications, but I can put it this way, the code appears to require this sequence of events, and so.
The special permit before this?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, unfortunately.
You want to cite the code?
Yeah, I mean, if you're curious, it's Article 25, 210, 35, 2, and just says where a special use permit application also requires site plan review, the special use permit application should be reviewed first.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, in the interest of moving along, we want to hear everything tonight.
Right. This is a special meeting, and thank you all for doing that. So how would you like to start?
Well, let's start by having you come up, introduce your project,
Okay.
talk about what you want to do, any other information you want to provide with us, and then we'll ask questions amongst anything we have of you. So if you
Should I
want,
sit here or just?
wherever you're comfortable, you can come up, show us plans, talk about what you want to do.
So I guess to start introduction, so I'm Mike Reynolds, I'm a manager, our family owns the 5 State Street property, so full disclosure, no relation to the Mike Reynolds.
Right.
Here, I'm here with my brother Pete Reynolds, who's also a manager and member of the company, and then Randy, who's our architect, who I'll call on as needed. So I'm going to start with sort of what we're looking for and why we're here, and then I can provide more color and detail behind it. So I guess the big picture is we're moving forward with a special permit application for a restaurant at our property as the owners, as the applicant. This is obviously following a year since the La Fábrica process, and unfortunately that process is not going to move forward and is not an application that's going to move forward. So we're moving forward as a family to actually own and operate and partner with folks to run a restaurant in our location. So obviously there's ongoing pending litigation on the variance that was passed last year. And so what we're doing here today from a site plan perspective is the trustees have required us to come up with a garbage and refuse plan historically, we have always used an easement that our property benefits from with the Village Bakery. So for 33 years, and even before the Village Bakery was there, there's an easement for us to use the dumpster on their site. We fully intend to continue to use that and don't see any reason why it's not legally valid. The trustees have concern that the owner of that property has publicly disavowed our easement for what it's worth. And because of that, they're concerned that doesn't meet the requirements for a special permit. So the trustees told us that we needed to come up with an alternative, one of which could be, we could get a written acknowledgement from them, which has been attempted and has not come to fruition. So plan B is to either have another neighboring property that has the ability for us to take our garbage to, which has been tried and is not suitable, sustainable, or something we were able to execute. And so the other alternative is to have an on-site garbage disposal refuse area to store 6 totes that would be sufficient for running our restaurant operation and would be on the 16 by 20 space that is on the east side of our property. And so we've gone through the design process. We've met on a preliminary basis with the Historical Preservation Board and gotten some feedback from them about materials and sort of making it blend in with the building. But basically we're here for, which I believe is a minor site plan approval. And to be clear, this would be only built if we were unable to access or if there was a legal overturn of that deed. So we don't intend to build this right out of the gate, but we're going to have it approved, attached to our special permit, and available to us to execute if, for whatever reason, the court overturns it, for whatever reason we don't have access to that anymore, we have an on-site and reliable refuse option that we can use.
Okay.
So this is your backup plan,
This is Plan B.
Gotcha.
And only to be built if Plan A doesn't come to fruition. Or very, very, very extreme, almost no probability that doesn't happen, but in order to suffice the trustees, we're coming up with this plan asking for site plan.
And I believe essentially what our code says is if this is not built within a year, the permits expire. So,
The site plan would expire?
yes,
Okay.
just so you're aware of that. That doesn't mean you can't come back and seek to renew it, but I hope this gets resolved within the year, and I'm sure you're going to do that.
I mean, a big part of the reason we're here is that we don't have a judgment on the variance litigation that's outstanding, as you all know, which appreciate you guys have supported that endeavor in the past on our behalf. So assuming that's resolved and or there's something else, yes, a year should be sufficient for us to have this because we believe it'll all be resolved by then anyways, or we'll have some acknowledgement.
All right, and we have trustee Lightgib in the audience. Do you have any comments regarding your understanding of the status of the trustees and any of this, or anything you want to address with us?
I don't really have a whole lot to add at this time. I think the representation is consistent with what we discussed. We're looking to make sure the directly is planned in place.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, now I see you have some larger plans.
Would you like to see that?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
That'd be great.
And I thought Steve would actually be here because he's gone through and reviewed these, and you've had a lot of back and forth about meeting the setbacks and everything.
What would be the best way to do this?
Move that over here, you want to place it right in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, move your name.
Move it everything.
Let's look at that. This is the site. State Street's out here. This is the current parking arrangement, paved area in the front. The property line actually has this little bump in it right here that comes out away from the building. And what we've done is taken advantage of that to do concrete block piers with a fence, a board-on-board fence around it. It's open from this side with a sliding gate, and it fits 6 toters within that. And then if I slide back over this side, this is a 1/4 inch per foot scale plan. You can see the layout of the interior of the restaurant. And then this is that space there. It leaves you this access way through here. The gates will slide open. We can put the 6, that's a toter size in there. The toters can be pulled out and taken out to the street for emptying. Here's elevations of it. And Here is the front of the building, just for scale, with that little enclosure to the side there.
Now, I had a question, because this shows 3 feet here, and the other one shows 5 feet.
It was, I have to get glasses. The intent was 3 feet. I think Steve had me move it there so that it was meeting the setback requirement. That 5 feet is the dimension of the property line, not the setback to the structure.
From the property line to the fence is the distance. That's what I'm wondering about.
Correct. This is giving you the distance of the property is 5 feet.
Yeah.
That segment of the property line is 5 feet. This is the property line here. There's the 5 feet. There's the 3 feet one back.
So you're saying it's 3 feet to the column and 5 feet to the wood fence?
No. 5 feet is the dimension of the property line. The property line, this represents the property line. The property line jogs back in 5 feet and then runs out to the street. That's 5 feet.
Yeah, got it.
This is 3 feet one from the property line to the pier.
Okay.
I have a survey if you want to see. It's more clear.
Yeah, if you have something that's a little more clear, that's helpful.
So this is a 2023 site survey, and the area is here. So if this is State Street, you can see it's 16 by 20, and then juts in 5 feet, and then comes down the sidewalk property line there.
All right, let's pass this around here. And does anyone else want to see the bigger drawings?
Got it. So this is the 5 feet right here.
Yeah.
Correct.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, just that
And
distance of that leg.
then what's the distance from here to the actual structure? 3 feet?
I'm not sure what you mean. Oh,
So this
from the
is
property line
from
to
the
the
property,
structure? Yeah, there's the property line.
Yep.
This is the 5 feet, because that's the
Yeah.
property line that runs out to the street.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
3 feet one to the face of that
Got
structure.
it, got it.
I made it 3 feet one because it has a cap on it with a 1 inch
sure.
overhang. And we want to make sure we're clear so that 1 inch overhang would protrude back out into there, and it'd be 3 feet to the property line. I originally had it a little bit closer and a little bit more space in here, and Steve said that would require a area variance for the side yard setback. So we pulled it to the 3 feet, and luckily everything still fits.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Anybody other questions?
Are you not worried about cars parked here?
It's not our problem.
Backing
Well,
in?
let me address that. So, this area has originally been designated as a shared handicap parking spot historically under our deed.
I remember that.
Now, the problem is that the Village Bakery is saying in their lawsuit that the shared handicap spot is actually somewhere else, which we don't agree with. They're not living by the deed. This 16 by 20 space is our property. It would be, that theirs, to be clear, their sidewalk is on our property. We, need to have access to garbage. The original intent, when the properties were divided back in 1991, was that the easement was given so that we wouldn't have to have on-site garbage. And so, in reality, if the Village Bakery is concerned about their parking or their sidewalk, they just need to allow us to use the garbage like we've done for 33 years.
So you didn't let me finish my question. My
Okay.
question was, are you worried that cars parked here are going to back into your structure?
Obviously, we're concerned about that. So part of the reason we did pillars with fencing is the fencing is replaceable if it breaks. The pillars obviously, we need to have a permanent structure there to enclose it. Right now, basically if someone's backing into that, they're also backing over a sidewalk. So there's already an issue.
I'd like to ask a few more things about that. I got some similar depictions to hand out here. Take a look at it, you can have a copy of it as well. If you want, it's just showing an aerial view of that area.
Sure.
I got enough to go around, I think.
Thank you.
And it's not the most legible thing in the world. And I talked about this with the building inspector at some length. But on here, I don't know if you can't really see it, but there's a blue line over at the end there.
37 feet.
Yeah, 37 feet. These are approximate. These aren't exact. That's approximately, I believe, where that property line and that current chain fence is. And when I took a look at this, again, I don't know the accuracy of this, but I believe the distance from the door to the edge of the other property, I think I put it on here,
Which door, Justin?
the side door to their building that they walk out right by the trash area.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Uh,
So that's the property line you're saying?
There's a
It's
side,
about
side
48
door that's
feet.
in the middle of this yellow circle.
Yeah, they
There's
are.
a side door right there. Yep.
Yeah, so where your building is, the building to the other edge of the parking lot, I believe is approximately 48 feet. I took a look at our code, I have some citations in here, and the parking lot width is supposed to be 42 feet for our code. So if their parking lot was, we know there's problems, but the safe backup area, if this parking lot, which is built to code, would be 42 feet from there, and then you'd only have 6 feet to your building. And I agree, a 6-foot wide trash tote that's not going to work for your use. So I understand that. My question is, where should this fence be?
I'm sorry. I guess I'm a little confused. So are you saying that the village manager's parking lot is not to code?
The width of on their property is not to our current code. This is pre-existing non-conforming, which is all over the village.
Yeah.
Code was adopted in 2019. This existed long before 2019.
Okay.
So, I mean, your parking lot is not to code either. So this is common. They were all built before our code was adopted. That's nothing uncommon about that. Question is, we put this, it sounds like what he's proposing is building the fence actually closer than where this chain link fence currently is. So you're actually, and right now, cars can actually safely back up and out there. And at least in this region, this proposal is making safety worse from what I see at cars. I agree, there's two properties. The situation is what it is. It's not ideal. How to handle that is what I'm not sure about. But I really am having a hard time, if you're proposing putting this fence closer to and making the parking lot even narrower here than it is in the existing parking lot, that I'm concerned about. When I talked to Steve, the building inspector, his comment was he asked you to move that fence to be in line with the current chain fence. So this is all the same width.
So that it doesn't cover any of the sidewalk.
I'm not commenting on the sidewalk. Yeah, I'm just commenting on leaving their parking lot the same width that it currently is throughout, but just extending that region of that width.
I guess to be clear, we're not encroaching on their property, so we're not changing their parking lot. We're using our property. This is our property. So we're building on our property.
Correct. It's also our purview to look at conflicts between properties. That's the point. So when we see one thing being built that's going to impact adjacent properties, that is first and foremost of our concern, and we're here to try to mediate as best as possible.
Okay.
So that's kind of the purpose of site plan review.
So
I mean, regardless, I know where property lines are. I know they're not supposed to be driving on your property. We know that. We know all of this is true, but the land is what it is. And my concern here is ultimately what we're trying to build is going to make things less safe for the public. So my comment is, what do we do about this? And
can I
see if anyone has any thoughts.
if I can make a couple comments on it. This is actually a parking space that we're filling.
There's,
So cars park there. Cars park in that space. So I don't know if we're making it less safe by putting a structure there when there's already cars that park in that space.
to the best of my knowledge, there's whatever site plan was last valid there did not show a parking space there, but I don't know. But anyway, a car is 8 feet wide. That area there, you said is 16 feet wide. So if a car is parked there in that spot, let's say it's a couple feet from the door, it's still much further than your proposed fence from the other cars backing up.
So that the bollards and the chain, which right now is temporary, is there, but so that line goes along their sidewalk, and that sidewalk is the property line until this jut out, which is our property, right? So you're saying that this would need to be designed such that it's in line?
Well, I'm just saying that's what Steve said he had asked you to do. Or my take from his conversation with Steve, you had your own conversation with Steve.
Yeah, we were, well, I was on the phones, and we never, it was, we need to be set back for the code that we can't have a fence right on the property line for that 3 feet. But never, so this is sort of new to us.
This is just the first time we're discussing this, and I'm just saying we had different conversations with Steve. I don't know what was said. Maybe I misheard him, but anyway. The question is, what do we do? And so one of my questions is, where can,
So I just have a comment on your, or just kind of mulling over the, your characterization of this is a safety issue. I think it's a safety issue for the fence.
in the car?
Right, but, you can't, no one, I mean, it's a tricky parking lot right now. Is this going to make it trickier? Or people will just have to go slower and just be a little more careful? I don't know, but I think it's a, why would the onus of preserving the parking lot as it is, which is hard to negotiate right now, why should the onus to preserve that be all on the applicant and not shared by the Village Bakery?
I guess
Does that make sense?
if I can add to that, I would also weigh the fact that we're an aggrieved party. We're have a litigation that's held us up. We need to be able to open and operate a business here. And if we're being denied garbage access, we have a worthless property right in the heart of the village. So I weigh the safety concern with, or benchmark the safety relative to the fact that we don't have many other options.
Yeah, I realize that, but we do need to be concerned about public safety. So my question is, okay, I clearly understand that 42-foot measurement that our code says is not practical. So my next question is, what is and what is safe? So if you put that fence right on your property line, that would leave the other parking lot, I believe, 32 feet wide, so it'd be deficient by a full 10 feet. So if our code says 42 feet, and it sounds like what you said it was 3 feet from the property line, so basically it would be making their parking lot about 7 feet narrower than reasonable. Now, I think we could all agree if it was 1 foot narrower, it's not a big deal. If it's 20 feet narrower, it's a big deal. And my question is, what is the bounds that is reasonably safe? So that's my question. And can we get to a compromise?
Do we know who owns this piece of property?
Which piece of property?
It's
the next one over.
This one over.
I believe it's the same owner.
Oh, you mean that really tiny little strip that's the driveway?
I've always wondered, I know that those are, they're not,
It's a grade
they're not
drop.
level.
Yeah.
There's
that's right.
there's quite a drop.
Yeah.
At one end anyway, it kind of narrows down. But he could address parking by grading that, by working on that. So I think that's.
If I can also say, there's a really great solution to solving the safety issue, is that they allow us to use the parking lot.
Well, I agree, that'd be great.
Again, we're getting put into the middle of something that we don't have control over because of conditions that we are having put set on us.
I totally understand, there's complex circumstances.
We're definitely sympathetic to that, but, that's not something that we have any control over. But I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, now, another comment of mine is, at least on the drawings we had, your drawing did not have the architect or engineer on it that drew it. It also did not show the adjacent parking lot, so I'm a little uncertain as to exactly what these distances are.
Which was that?
So this was the one I had, and the ones we had weren't, they just say site plan.
It's printed the wrong way.
Okay, so you are the person that.
This drawing was transmitted with that title block on it. That's a copy of that drawing. It was just printed in portrait instead of landscape, and it cut it off on your plan.
Okay, all right. So you're the architect.
I'm looking at what's on the website that was posted for the meeting, and yeah, it's just transposed.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, I was just wondering if this was, who was responsible for it, if you're going to eventually stamp a drawing and accept responsibility for whatever this is.
Yep.
If that's the case, that's at least a statement.
From my point of view, I'm not responsible for the safety of the parking lot on that side. I'm building something within the property line of my client, who has the right to use his property. If that creates an unsafe situation on a neighbor's property, it's inherent upon them to modify their use of their property to create a safe situation there. My client has no responsibility to create a safe situation on the neighbor's parcel. I mean, if he was doing something to cause that the neighbor couldn't avoid causing, a problem with, but in this situation, they could simply stop parking in those spaces.
Let me add to that. In 2011, when the Village Bakery moved in, their site plan said you have to have the sidewalk going up, and they just built it on our property.
Yeah. I know there's some.
They've actually acknowledged that they did that wrong. They know it's a safety issue, so and not to mention there's an electrical power line going under our property without an easement. Yeah.
Runs across the site.
So anyways, what would suffice, again, this is plan B, is there sufficient space to move this over? Again, we would need to be in line some amount over from I think right now we're only 1 or 2 feet over onto the sidewalk. Like if you're looking at this, right?
Yeah.
Right, so the sidewalk is here. We're really only 1 or 2 feet onto the sidewalk, and then we're taking up what is supposed to be a parking space. So I think we're only talking about 2 feet of difference here, which.
Relative to where the chain fence is, correct?
Yes.
Right.
So relative to where the chain is.
I'd like to add a little anecdote to help put a little basis of visual observation. I've parked in this parking spot during operational hours of the Village Bakery and patronizing, but purposely parked there on my family's property because I know it is a valid parking spot. I've sat there also before we put the chains up for our own protection of our property. I sat there and watched cars come in and out. Because my car was there, cars were careful about going around it to be able to safely get out, and no one backed into me because they knew I was there. So having a structure there is a visual, it'll be very obvious that there is something there, so that, and I fully understand safety by all means, but when we're looking at concept drawings and stuff and not having something concrete.
I mean, this is certainly going to be taller than a vehicle parked in that
Yeah.
spot. So it's going to be a visual cue that you can't back up into this.
Right.
Maybe more safe.
Have you seen their light post?
Yeah.
So
It is badly beaten up. It's been hit many times.
Yes.
if I can make another point, the sidewalk, I think the sidewalk is the demarcation of the safety zone. We're not going over the sidewalk. The sidewalk is put there, we're leaving space of the sidewalk theoretically available. So if their parking area and their original site plan was really from the edge of their sidewalk over to the parking spaces, we're not encroaching or violating that into their parking area. But all we're doing is taking a foot or two away from a sidewalk that was illegally put there and is on our property. So for like the safety argument, I actually don't think we're impeding on the safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the safety concern is really more if folks are backing, if they're not being careful enough or whatever, and they go past the edge of the parking lot, if you get a tire on the sidewalk, it's not the end of the world. But, if you do that and there's a structure, then they're going to be hitting it and causing damage to your fence and all that.
Unless you're a pedestrian on the sidewalk.
Correct. Correct.
So, I mean, we're willing to
That's right.
limit that damage and continue to maintain it because
Yeah.
it's an existential threat to our existence.
Is Steve online by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just float a thought here, and I would like to have someone that is probably a little more knowledgeable on safety of this weigh in on this. And I think we have two options. Unfortunately, Steve isn't here. We can have Steve weigh in. We can also see if we can consult with our village engineer, Scott Harder, to see, and he may well be able to say, hey, the village code says 42 feet is normal, but there's other conventions that are typical.
Guys, what's precedent? Like, are there other parking lots that are thinner than this?
Can you?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm floating options where you haven't resolved anything yet. So we can ask him to weigh in on this to see if he has a suggestion for what distance might be safe and accommodate them, or he may have other things. All I know is that every time I've consulted with our engineer, Scott Harder, he's given us some useful advice. And then also the advice would be from a professional, and we could accept it, as opposed to anecdotal comments from people. That's what I thought. I don't know if anyone's interested in that. It's probably just a matter of him spending an hour or two looking at this and sending us comments.
I would also like some definition about safety. Safety for the fence, safety for people, safety for cars. I mean, I think we're kind of using that in a pretty imprecise.
Yeah.
I think having someone that actually does this could be helpful to consult with, is what I'm saying, instead of just listening to various thoughts. Ask a professional.
I have to confess, I do have some concern about using safety concerns to basically say that, part of your property needs to remain a parking lot for a neighboring property. I do have concerns about that may be some kind of a, taking of one. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm resolved one way or the other, but I do have concerns about that, and I think we keep that in mind as we.
I think the goal here is to come up with a compromise that works best for everybody, is kind of what I'm striving to do, but I don't feel I have enough information right now. And I don't feel like I'm in a position to understand. Anyway, I've said enough. Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's right. And I would also say that the compromise that worked may be what has been applied for.
Yes.
That is possible, yes. Do you guys think that moving that fence closer to your building is a viable option? Or maybe I'll just leave that as an open consideration for you. If you can design that area with a little closer, think about that, and see what is a reasonable place to put this that accommodates you and at least shows a little respect. I guess it's about all I could say is a respect for the use next door.
The other safety concern I have is that exit door there is a fire safety door.
Yep, you need a walking aisle there between your tote area.
That
Yep.
needs to meet code too, so much of this process, we might be between a rock and a hard place.
Look, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And so my thinking is just what compromise can we get that addresses these issues? So the other thing I was wondering is if you can actually show that distance on your plans. So to show where that the end of their parking lot is. You don't need to draw the parking spaces or any of that in there, but just at least so we know the distance to that chain fence and the distance to the wall for the parking lot.
Yeah, again, I guess I would say, again, we're only encroaching onto the sidewalk by a foot or two. And so that chain, if you're looking, this is the site plan we submitted, is along here, along the property line, and right now the garbage is, you can see only a foot or two over that. So in reality, I think I think from a safety perspective, we collectively should be able to say is encroaching 1 or 2 feet on that sidewalk beyond that line necessary to have a full examination. I mean, I don't think if we were right on the property line and we didn't have a 3-foot setback, I can see that. But reality, I guess it's 5 feet total and we're 3-foot setback, so really we're 2 feet over. And the sidewalk is still actually 2/3 exposed.
So I guess maybe this is a question for the board, is I think it would be helpful to actually know what these numbers are, these distances are. And then that if we have Scott or someone look at it, he can actually weigh in more effectively.
And just to be clear, when you say these distances, you mean like the width of the parking lot?
Yeah, the distance from their fence to the other side of the parking lot on the adjacent property. And likewise, the distance from your temporary chain to the parking lot on the other property. I think that would be helpful for us to know. And then when you go to, after, I don't even know where that is. You're saying the property line is the walking path right now?
So,
Okay.
So again, on our side of the property, the sidewalk really is the demarcation of the property line.
Okay.
And remember, it goes up the property line and then this jut out goes 5 feet over, 20 feet up, and then 16 feet over the building.
Okay.
And so if you take the difference, so that 5-foot jutting out minus the 3-foot setback of the actual fence means we're really only 2 feet over that line you're talking about. So if you're okay with the parking lot going from 37 to 35 feet, which is less than a 5% change, and, you know.
Well, again, relative to what our code says is 42 feet. I don't know, there's gonna, over that distance, whatever that parking lot width is, when you go from 42 foot wide to 41 foot wide, hazards increase a small amount. If you go from 42 feet to 32 feet, they're gonna increase a lot. So where is the medium? And I can't answer that. I don't think any of us in the room can answer that. And that's where I'm saying, I think, so I guess, if we were to consult with Scott, a couple things we could do is we could just ask him to, we could write a letter to him, ask him to respond, take a look at the drawings and see what his response is.
Let's, just to expedite things,
Yeah.
can't we just email him or
Yeah.
give him a call
Exactly.
and ask him to look at it this week?
We could.
Yeah.
So whatever communication methods,
Yep.
but emails are nice because you have a hard copy. I don't like calling people without all of us involved.
Yeah.
I'll call him right now.
Yeah.
If you'd like to. If I could ask a question, Justin, can we still have even with this, we still have the public hearing tonight and then have some future vote, or is there some issue with doing?
Well, we're just going through it. Well, actually, might as well open the public hearing.
Yeah, I don't think we
Right,
did that.
forgot to do that. Yeah, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Loda?
I,
Member Cook?
Aye.
Member Reynolds?
Aye.
Chair Boustra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, is there anyone looking to speak? Is there anyone online?
There are not any participants online to speak.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody in the room? I assume not, since we know who everybody is.
So, Justin, do you have any concerns about this request for Scott Harder to spend a couple hours of his time for that? There needs to be some authorization for access to him.
Yeah, personally, I have no problem with that use of resources at all. I can't speak for the board, of course, but I would support that.
Okay. So I think the next step then is if we're going to do this, we should send a request to, I think the clerk, is it the clerk that can authorize it?
You should, reach out to Dorothea.
Okay, so reach out to Dorothea and make sure.
I'm not saying she can authorize it, but you should reach out to her on the process.
Right. So we'll reach out to her. I think we need to draft a letter to Scott, so maybe we can draft this after the meeting. We can circulate it amongst ourselves. Does that seem reasonable? And everyone can take a look at that. And
And the scope of that would be?
we're going to ask Scott to take a look at this, the distance between the proposed fence and the other edge of the other parking lot, and make suggestions for appropriateness, I believe, of that distance, suggestions for how to improve safety, and any other concerns about safety he may have. So I think it's kind of the general open thing is that what does he think we can do to make this better?
Got it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Or does it need?
Or does it need to be better? Is this acceptably safe?
Right.
Do changes need to get made?
Right.
I think those are some of the questions. So I
Right.
think we can circulate a draft of this amongst ourselves tomorrow.
So to be clear, Justin, are you suggesting that we should require them to add to the drawing? I think you mentioned something about putting the distances on.
So yes, what are people's thoughts? Should we ask them to modify the drawing? Or is it clear enough if the property line is the walkway?
I don't think we should ask for that to be added to the drawings personally. I think as long as we have the distances, whether it's on the drawing or not, doesn't matter to me. As long as we have the information, I'm satisfied with that, but happy to hear it.
So if Scott can't figure it out, for example, then maybe, but I think someone could go out there with a tape measure too. Is that right?
Call Randy.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically if someone needs that information, call you and you can help.
Have a survey on this.
I do.
I estimated that, okay, good.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I think the file you sent us may have been turned to, because I took it directly from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did some numbers by just looking at the GIS system, and that's not going to be accurate to a foot.
No,
Well, it's pretty good.
We did an official site survey, and we have their original site plan, and they did a site survey recently that they submitted to the village for underwater direct.
Okay, so if you think this information
He has
exists,
that.
we don't need to modify anything, everyone can figure this out, then, okay.
I mean, I guess you can send us comments if there's clarification for us to submit. But yeah, hopefully I think everything should be okay. The digital version I can see has everything I think you guys would need.
I just want to be clear that we're leaving them with a clear idea of what we're requiring, if anything.
So what it sounds like right now we are not requiring them to make any changes to their drawings.
Right.
Okay.
Is what I'm saying.
And you're going to ask for, just repeating what I heard to make sure I'm on the same page, you're going to ask for a sort of safety opinion from this.
The village engineer.
Yep.
Village engineer.
Village engineer. And then from that point, you'll be able to make a determination and vote or request additional changes. Is that?
I think that's basically what'll happen. He might suggest we move this fence a foot, whatever it is. We'll listen to what he has to say, address it. As far as I'm concerned, if we need to schedule another special meeting after our meeting next week, would other people be willing to do that if we need to move this along?
Yeah, I mean, I hope we won't need to do that, but yeah.
Well, I will say, knowing that we will get the special permit, because we're already going to apply for a liquor license,
Yeah.
right? And we need a special permit. And so long as that is still able to go through, which I would want to confirm with Jeff and everybody's on the same page, that next Tuesday, we have our final permit decision and public hearing, then it'd be great if it was the day after, or if it's the next.
It may be, or it may be shortly thereafter
We'd
that.
love
We
to
don't-
get it done as soon as possible. And I appreciate you guys have already set this as a special meeting for us, given.
Well, it allows us to discuss this and sort out this stuff. I was hoping we could discuss this a month ago, and then there'd be a little more time to work out anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're sensitive to time needs and try to do what we can.
Yeah.
But there's also legal standards for time limits and so on. And then, so your homework then is also to think about what options you might have for moving that fence a little bit closer, if we can, if that's practical.
All right, we'll look into that.
And it just gets there, and it may not be, but I mean, usually there's option to move a foot.
Yep.
Will that make a difference? I don't know.
Yep.
Whatever it is.
Okay.
Does that sound good for everyone? All right, so I'll make a motion and at least draft a letter to Scott Harder and seek approval from the village clerk to get opinions on the safety of the proposal and suggestions for whether changes are suggested. Or do I want to word it differently? Or we can change the wording on it.
And we can workshop the
Yeah.
specific language.
Okay, so so off the record, we'll work out the language. So the motion will be to make a request of Dorothea for access to Scott Harder, and we'll send a letter to Scott Harder. I don't mind making an additional draft probably tonight and circulate it amongst all of us.
Yeah.
That's okay?
Yeah.
And then whatever changes are fine.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess that's the motion. We'll work out the language when you do the minutes.
Yeah.
Second.
Member Cook,
Aye.
Member Reynolds?
Aye.
Member Loda?
I,
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Chair Bleastra?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Welcome to hang out to those full-size drawings.
Okay, that sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Assistant.
So with that, I don't think there's anything, we haven't made any formal request to make any changes yet. We're just still considering it.
Can I, if to move on a topic, can I ask some questions about our variances and have a working session with you briefly
Comes with
on
free rubber.
that? I'm not asking for a vote or anything, but feedback as it relates to our variances and your capacity as the zoning board?
Would it make sense to have attorney-client session to discuss some of this?
Yeah,
And could this be discussed outside of a meeting?
yeah, I would like to talk about that first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we should probably get some counsel on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know what your questions are,
Can I say
but
my piece and you guys can
How about
talk to
we-
your attorney
Yeah,
about
why don't you let us know what it is that you
well,
want to ask?
hold on a second here. Do you advise that, or could we include them in the section?
Well, what variances are we talking about?
They had variances on their property last year for relief from parking.
One lawsuit.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. I don't know, I don't want to.
I don't think it's advisable to talk in open meeting about that.
I agree.
Okay. May I address you and have you for consideration that you'll talk to your attorney about?
Well, I guess the question is, can we have an executive session? Or,
Well, I don't know can we have an executive session with the applicant? I don't know if that would be proper. I don't think we can do that.
So I don't think that you would like that.
I don't think we can do that.
should we adjourn for like 2 minutes and talk to our attorney about this?
I mean, if necessary, I guess I would be okay with just having them ask the questions, and we don't have to answer them. We can go and consider and whatever, but at least we'll know what it is that we're being asked to answer.
You have an objection to that?
No, I don't think, as long as you don't answer them.
Yeah, let's,
I understand, I wasn't
We should,
expecting much
yeah.
anyways, so.
Would you like to have your attorney send a letter to?
I wanted to talk to the board about it.
Okay,
So here's the timeline. Rachel's had a variance for a 24-seat restaurant, 6 parking spaces in 2019. That was used and is still on with our property.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think we should adjourn the public hearing?
yeah, I think we should definitely do that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's make a motion to,
So we're not going to keep it open?
we're gonna keep the public hearing open. So I'll make a motion to keep the public hearing and continue discussion of the application on our next regular meeting, 6:30 PM on May 1st.
Sorry, not to interrupt.
That's okay.
Just to make sure we're doing it right.
It's a technicality.
You got a vote?
Member Reynolds?
Aye.
Member Cook?
Aye.
Member Loda?
I,
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Chair Bleastra?
Aye.
Motion passes. I just realized I didn't get a second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm taking yours, Member Shannon.
Okay.
So I know it's getting late, so I'll
It's okay.
make this brief. So as I mentioned, Rachel's variance, 6 parking spaces, 24 capacity. La Fabrica came, we went through and got an approved variance for no parking requirement. And obviously that was currently in litigation. It sat in front of a judge. The judge did not throw it out. The judge did not say it's on stay or we couldn't use it. We believe it's valid and active until we get a decision otherwise that it's not. We've approached the village trustees with a request to use that variance. And the village trustees have said, you can use this variance, but we're concerned about it being under active litigation and they might put conditions around us for that. I don't know what those are yet. And so we said, well, what if we got another variance, a lesser variance temporarily, or potentially amend the Rachel's variance, which is not under litigation, because our special permit is not going to create a patio right out of the gate. It is our long-term plan to do that. Would obviously have site plan approval to do so. But we're still gonna have a parking area as we had it, just like with Rachel's. When we approached the planning board, or the zoning board attorney, the the opinion was that you have the zero parking variance, you have to use it. There's no sense getting another variance. So what this does is it basically requires us to use this variance under litigation, which the trustees are having a certain opinion on. And what I would ask that you consider is there either a way to amend the Rachel's variance, and we could use that in the future if the no parking variance is overturned, right? Amend the Rachel's variance so that it's updated on the capacity, but still the same parking area, or give us some temporary variance, which is outstanding, and if the, is for an actual parking lot that we have with our capacity, such that if the litigation throws out our variance, we can still rely on this temporary one or it turns permanent, right? I'm basically asking for a variance that's less than what's under the litigation. I understand maybe there's some concerns about what that does with the argument, but we're the aggrieved party now with the position that our neighbor and the village are taking, that we would love to have the no parking variance. Unfortunately, the trustees are requiring potential conditions on us for that. So could we get sort of a lesser variance? I think there's debate between the trustees council and your council about what's possible. So I ask you that if you could consider solutions for us that we could go forward with our special permit, not have conditions under the litigation, and basically ask for something that's less than what's already there. I don't see any downside to you all, and for us, it would give us a very clean variance that's not under litigation and allow us to move forward with our special permit and operate confidently going forward. Hopefully that makes sense. I'd ask if you have any questions, but I understand.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm going to decline to comment further.
Yeah, we'll take that under advisement.
Just want to put it out there. If there's a solution that we could discuss, I think we would really love to have something that works.
Okay, thank you for the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, and we'll keep this moving forward and see what we can try to get as the best design for the situation we're in.
Okay, great. Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate you guys pulling together a special session for us here. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
And if we would get a decision from the court, that would make everything easier.
Yeah. Mr. Lightgift, did you have anything you wanted to address with us or alert us as to anything going on with the trustees?
Just a couple of quick notes in case anybody is interested. We might be looking at budget adoption in the next meeting, which will be this week. We do have a short-term rental meeting upcoming, a workshop on May 13th. And we started an early stage discussion about rezoning the R5 district. And so I just wanted to give people a heads up on that and happy to answer your questions about those items or others that come up before.
And so for those various things, where are those? Is there any draft legislation for the short-term rentals or?
We do not have draft legislation for the short-term rentals. It would be a workshop. We do have some input from the committee that was formed, and we would be looking at different options we discussed.
Okay, so you don't have even a bullet list yet of the key policy fundamentals or anything like that?
Not one that there's a consensus on.
Okay.
Probably have a bullet list. I know.
Can you maybe give us a quick summary of what the points of contention are? Or?
You know, we haven't even, that's really the point of the workshop.
Fair enough, yeah, if you can, it's fine.
Yeah.
If it's too early, it's fine, yeah.
It is, I think that's the point, is to get our heads together at the next workshop. It's not even necessarily like, we always take public comment, but I think this is really, the next workshop will be for us to put our heads together and see where we stand and prepare that whole list.
I'd like to want a copy of this thing here.
Sure.
You're happy to have that. There's a few extra around, I think.
Is it kind of the same story with the R5 rezoning? Still early to be able to tell us what the points under consideration are?
We actually put together a draft piece of legislation that would basically just incorporate one of the other zones to replace R5. The problem with R5 is that it's a personal legacy zone that was a holdover in 2019. And we're just looking to make that consistent with the rest of the zoning. But discussions were had about MUEC or MUOF, but really it's still early stage and we can gather the public's input as well.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
it is.
I did take a look at some of the MUEC zoning, and I had some notable concerns about that. And if you're already aware of things, I haven't mentioned anything, but like it allows hotels.
Yeah.
And maximum building size is quite big, and it allows high-density residential over office. And we know parking, traffic is not good in that corridor. So, I mean, it seems like some of those higher intensity uses should be muted to some extent. So they could do residential only, or at one density, or mixed use with residential at, some other density. Maybe prohibiting, hotels within 1,000 feet of a school or something like that. I don't know. Whatever it is, there's definitely some things in there that probably are not good uses and good designs for some of those areas.
Yeah, I think based on the discussion, we'd also be open to a hybrid zone. It's not just something off the books. So all input is welcome. So feel free to address us anytime.
Is that something that usually goes to public hearing, or is it only a trustee designation?
It would definitely be subject to public hearings, it'd be rezoning, so.
It would be seeker, it'd come to us for LWRP as well, presumably. And, the last code.
Number 4.
What's that?
Say number 4.
Did that get you
But he's
excited?
counting.
Yeah, one of my concerns was when some of these zoning districts were adopted, the environmental review, I don't think, I'm not quite sure what was done, but basically if you look at the zoning district, maximum build out permitted and evaluate the environmental impacts on those, I think they'd be bad. So I'm not sure how things were done before, but whatever you adopt, that environmental review could be a lengthy process, and you might need to pause deck this and go through a generic EIS or something like that. So at least that's my concern, because the traffic is an issue there. It goes from at Monroe Avenue, it goes from pretty dense urban to rural, right past the school and forest land. So it's a tricky thing to think about. And you got to make this work for multiple, it's not the one property, multiple properties over there if you do a new district.
Yeah, there are a lot of considerations. I appreciate this, and I'll send along a reference to this discussion to the trustees, and we will kind of go on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I don't think so, nothing.
Thanks a lot for your time.
All right, well, thank you for coming in. All right, I think we should close the meeting. Good with that?
Sounds good to me.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
I think Member Reynolds, I heard you over there, right? Okay. Member Loda?
Aye.
Member Cook?
Aye.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Reynolds?
Aye.
Chair Leistra?
Aye.
Motion passes.